Hello, Collette. I'm really happy to see you.
Hi Alice, it's lovely to see you too.
Your energy resonates with me, and some things that you also said in your conversation with David Bingham also resonated with me a lot. And so I would be really interested what has been happening to you since then.
I think I was really excited in my video with David Bingham.
You were.
I guess it was so new and fresh and exciting, and it's just got deeper, really. Just the unfolding of who you truly are, being revealed more and more each day, and it's the falling away of the identity. So in the beginning, when you self-realize, for my experience, when I self-realized, you're suddenly, the excitement is like, wow, it's been here all the time. I was already it. So it's very sort of exciting to have had that. The realization bit is quite exciting. And then just the freshness and newness of everything. And then there's still invitations at the beginning. And there's this feeling that you are, you've recognized that you are just awareness, that you are just this. But then there's still the pull to go into the world of duality, where something may trigger you. I mean, there's a lot less triggers, and also they're seen. There seems to be more space, so they're seen. So whereas before you were self-realized, you would find yourself in something, thinking, "What on earth is this?" And now it's that you either don't enter into it. Sorry, my cat's joined me. You either don't enter into it. It's just seen. So at the point I'm at now, which is the easiest bit to talk about because it's my experience, is that pretty much everything is seen. I mean, literally each day more and more drops away. So for me at this point, it's a matter of, it's just the wonder of it all, because I see it arising. I see situations arising, and I see the mind wanting to make a story out of what's happening. And it's just amazing to see that you don't have to do that. It's just seen. And there is no story. It is literally just what's happening. And I think that more and more falls away to reveal that quicker and quicker until it's just your experience. And I'm not saying nothing's never going to trigger me again, but it's so quick now to see that it's the mind projecting and creating a story about what's happening rather than the truth of what's happening. So you meet somebody in the street and there's just two people meeting in the street and just what's happening. Whereas prior, what would have happened is there would have been a running dialogue with the mind saying, "Oh, I wonder if she thinks this," or "Oh gosh, they'll," you all the old programs are wanting approval, or would have always sort of been over the top of the conversation. So you would still be there with the person, but there would just be something else there, like a puppet, playing the game, playing the role. It's not like you're just a zombie now. It's everything's seen, it's just like so much falls away that you're just in the moment, and it's whatever's happening is happening, and it's quite magical, really. I mean, there's less. It's far less than there was, but in the less, it's really magical. Yeah. So I think you really hear people because you're not adding all the stuff on the top, the judgments and the approval and whatever the programs are. I think you just really experience life as it happens, rather than how that separate person wanting to control everything. I mean, it's so freeing because you're not controlling the situation. And I don't think we realised we were doing all these things, all the programs. No. So I guess that was quite a long way of explaining that freedom is the biggest word, I suppose, the most the correct word for it. It's just freedom. Freedom from the personality, freedom from the role of a performance for each person. You're almost a different person, so you don't have to be. You're just free to be whatever you are in that moment. And the truth it's just the truth of the moment comes. And anything else? No, I think it's just that. It's just taking everything as it is in the moment, effortlessly. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to. It's just what's arising in the moment. Really, is the experience at this point. So there is, at the beginning, there's that you've realised something. And I know we were in a group together, weren't we, when we first realised? And a lot of people have the same realization, that you realize who you are, but then there's a flip-flop. You go in and out of it. You feel like you've fallen asleep and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm the person again. And then, have I lost it? Oh no, there it is. So you go backwards and forwards. And then there becomes a point, only not that long ago actually, so I was still going backwards and forwards, but then I had a point where I just felt that movement had dropped away. I was just here. So instead of the falling asleep, waking up motion, or the backwards and forwards, there was just this. And I was like, it stopped. I'm just here. So that was really nice. And then this seems to just get deeper, isn't quite the right word, but I don't know what to call it. But this just seems to get more embodied, I suppose. So then you're walking around from that. You don't just, when you're resting, able to just be in the moment. You're walking around in the moment. So it's with you now, rather than feeling like you might have lost it and then having moments of just it. And I know I'm talking a lot, but the most beautiful thing about it is the bliss. And it's not the type of bliss that you search for. It just comes upon you. It's beautiful, isn't it? I'm sure you experience that.
Sometimes it's too difficult to handle, by the way. It feels too good.
Oh, but it's not that bliss that you chase.
No.
It's not like, oh, I want bliss now. Where's that bliss? It just comes upon you and you just think, oh, this is delicious. This is so nice. Oh, but it's really different to being a person, because the person would look for that and want that. And I just completely, my experience is that you almost forget about it and then it comes again and you're like, oh, there's that bliss. And I can access it. I literally do it now. Just drop into my heart center and access bliss. But it's not something I chase. I don't need it. It's a different way of being, and being a person, needing things. You don't need it. It's there, it's lovely. But you don't need it.
So you just stop chasing these presence, you become part of it. You just experience it, and it's not a mental effort. And this is what we are, as seekers, try to do, like to force and to do it by mental effort to achieve this state of. I remember you mentioning on the conversation with David that you were reading Eckhart Tolle's books and you were trying to be present. I did absolutely the same, a cup of coffee, looking out of the window. Okay, let's be present.
That's the person trying to be present, isn't it? Yeah.
Poor little person.
Well, I think it's all part of the whole picture. That poor little person is, I don't regret any of that. Sitting there trying to be, it's all part of the whole thing. The experience, because it's all an experience. Else you wouldn't self-realize if you wouldn't look for it if you didn't feel like it was missing. So that person seeking, although I didn't realize I was a seeker, which still makes me laugh, for about 20 years, but I just didn't, I don't know, I think for me it felt like there was something that was driving me. It wasn't always me. It wasn't the person. Quite a lot of the time, it wasn't the actual person. It was just a knowing that there's something different here to be found. So I think that quite often drove the search more than that's why I didn't really think I was a seeker. I was like, I didn't really think I was a seeker. I think there was some underlying current that was making it inevitable that I was going to reach this point, no matter whether I seeked or didn't seek or whatever I called it. It was going to happen, and I hope, my thing is, I have a channel, and it's just to be able to share it with other people and help them if they are seeking or they are unfolding, if their path is unfolding there, is to play the game of helping other people to wake up. Just because it's so, I wouldn't have, I don't know, that's a thought, but the likes of David Bingham and Eckhart Tolle and Angelo, I've forgotten his surname, Simply Always Awake is his channel. It's very good. There's so many good teachers, Rupert Spear and Mooji, who I fell in love with very early on. They do have a purpose. They do have a purpose in the journey. So if your channel or my channel can help in any little way as well, because I think it seems to be there's you resonate with different energies at different times for what you need. So I don't know if people find it. I'm still surprised that I actually have a channel because it's not something the personality would have chosen. And sometimes I just I walk past this desk and I just sit down and record. Nothing's planned. And that's a bit funny for the person, because the person was a perfectionist, so she would never allow anything to have been planned. And I don't think the channel would have ever got started, because I would have been like, oh, no, it has to be like this, and I have to plan it, and none of that happens. So
I know that.
It is quite different to how I would have done it in the past, and now I just do it for the sake of the main drive is to help other people, but it's creating for the sake of creating. So there's nothing to get, nothing to gain, nothing to give. Nobody needs fixing. Nobody needs saving. Everybody is perfectly fine. So it's just for the joy of doing it. And I have to remind myself there, I have to say, because I can get that old personality can come back, and it's like, it's not working. I can't get this to work, and that's not working. And then it's like, hang on a minute. I'm just creating for the joy of creating. I'm not doing this channel that's not the drive. It's to have fun. It's to enjoy your life. It's to enjoy this or not do it, or do it or not do it. So there are quite a few changes, really subtly. How you experience life now, how I am.
Well, I think it's pretty similar to your experience, and you just said it just exactly the way I see it. Creating for the sake of creating, because God is a creator, and this is how he rolls, he or she, or us. And if a conversation triggers something in someone, that's wonderful, because this is what happened to us. We also listened to certain conversations, we participated in certain conversations, and definitely this variety of teachers, well, we don't call ourselves teachers, but I mean those that you mentioned, Eckhart Tolle, Mooji, Ramana Maharshi, whoever, it depends on what stage in your journey you are at this moment. And certain things may resonate or not. And I think you mentioned Byron Katie, am I right?
Oh yeah.
I haven't read her works, but I heard many people mention her.
I used her an awful lot in my journey, actually, her 4 questions. So I looked at all my triggers, because that was my main thing for waking up. I didn't really have that image of sort of floating around and life being wonderful. That wasn't really my goal. I just wanted to feel better inside my body. I didn't want that that feeling of being pushed and pulled with life. So when something wasn't, so my resistance, basically it's resisting to what is. That resistance to what is creates that push and pull feeling in the body, and I didn't like how it felt, and there was some knowing that we're not supposed to feel like that. So that was sort of my search. I wanted to get rid of that feeling, anything that didn't feel right. So I literally did her work on everything. And I know when I had my conversation with David, he said, oh, a lot of people do have things come up afterwards, but he said, I think you've actually worked on most of them before, because that was just my route. So I would ask those 4 questions. I did it slightly different to Byron Katie. I just made it my own. Then eventually I only needed 2 because I'd got so effective, because I was doing it on everything, every single tiny little thing. To just, because that was just, I saw it as a game. I saw it as a positive, to look at the shadow. I never felt it, that it was the shadow. I always felt that I was shining a light. So it was light work instead of shadow work.
Oh.
Because I was shining a light on what was causing this discord. So I always felt it was positive. It's like, oh, is there anything else? This is great. I'm getting rid of it all. It's like spring cleaning.
Yeah.
I was roll up my sleeves, and what else is there? There must be something else to look at. So it formed quite a positive process for me, which I'm really grateful to her for. It really did help. I mean, I'm not saying there's not things are going to come up.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You never know, but I think from this point you are more able to see things and not get lost in them.
But you worked on your triggers not from the first moment when you got to know Byron Katie's work, right?
I did it over quite a long period of time. Probably I saw her live, and I did it on quite a few things then. Then I had, you have gaps where you don't search, you don't.
This is what I'm talking
you don't
about.
Look at anything spiritual. It just goes up and down, in and out. I think your body just needs to catch up. Your nervous system or whatever it is. There seems to be integration even along that path. Prior to realization, there's integration of knowledge. So I read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. Absolutely loved it. I was like, I'm not the mind. Hang on a minute. I thought I was the mind. I thought I was that voice in my head. To be able to witness the mind, realized that I wasn't the mind. So that was the first stage. Then it was the body. Okay, if I'm aware of the body, I'm not the body. I'm aware of the mind, I'm not the mind. So those were 2 stages. And then I had that time of still being a person, looking to be present. And I was looking at all my triggers. I might have even done it for like 10 years on and off. But towards the end, I was just like, okay, this I'm not. I think I probably had, they call it the dark night of the soul. And I don't like to worry people about that, but the full-on when your triggers are really, I think I had that prior to self-realization for about 6 months, but you don't realize when you're going through these stages.
No.
So I think I probably had that before, where I was having trigger after trigger after trigger, but luckily I was armed with this information, so I was able to look at them. And then because you feel better once you've looked at them, it encourages you to, and also it creates some space. I felt it created space, so I wasn't in them so much. I was able to witness them a little bit more. There's a bit of distance. So instead of getting caught in it and then afterwards looking and going, oh my goodness, what happened there? It was like while it was happening, I was like, oh my goodness, look at this is happening, and I'm still reacting, but I could see it. I could see I was reacting. I was like, this is a pattern. Why am I still saying this? As it was unfolding, there was some witnesser able to see it all. And then there was the point where it would appear and I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not going there. I know what this is and I'm going to look at this later. Quick to look at it there and then, but I knew, okay, I'm not engaging. I'm not picking up. I can feel the thought. I can feel it in my body, but I'm not going to act out this same scenario. But I'm going to look at this later. And then I would look at it and deal with it. So then I had some space. So then there was far less stuff coming up, and then that's when I saw David. That's when there was a real energy to see somebody, because I knew it was I had the feeling of the realization was very close, and I'd had a vision flip, the presence thing of looking for presence and then realizing I was presence. I was like, and I think that could have quite possibly been self-realization, but I didn't know it. Because I was 5 words in with David when I saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But can you describe it in detail? Because I really wanted to understand how exactly it happens to people.
The self-realization?
Yeah.
So for me, it was David is brilliant at it, because he knows the words to say. So for me, it was identification, and I hadn't got that little bit of the jigsaw. So I realized there was presence. I'm not looking for presence. I realized I had presence, so that is very close, but I was still identified as a person. So although I felt just oneness and presence, I still thought that I was a separate person experiencing subject-object life. So I'm a separate person in the world, and everything's happening to me. It's hard to so that feeling of being a separate person. And he pointed out to that feeling of who I am before the story, just that essence of who I am, awareness that we all experience, our everyday going about, is actually not the person that is who you are. I'd labelled it Collette. I'd been told. I go dizzy now just even talking about it.
I can feel the flow.
Yeah. I feel so it's a coming back, instead of a separate person projecting out into the world. It's a resting back and looking in and thinking, I already am it. I'm not looking out, a separate person looking out. I'm here already. This, which I called Collette, my parents called Collette, is awareness. It's just that had somebody told me this, which is everybody's experience. I'm no different. Everybody's awareness. Everybody's aware. If you ask anybody, they'll say, if you say, are you aware? They'll go, yes, I am aware. That is it. But it's realizing that is who you are, and the identification is put on top of that. And then you believe you're a separate person. That gets labeled. I don't know whether I'm making sense, but that's how...
I understand it.
So it was identification for me.
Yeah.
I'd identified my true self, awareness, as a person, as Collette, with all the things that I'd been told I was: a little girl, you're shy, you're pretty, you're naughty. Well, I was never naughty, but trying to think of things. I was always the good girl. You're the good girl, So David says that as you enter, you get an invitation to play the game of a separate person in the world.
Right.
So your awareness, this might work, your awareness gets an invitation to play the game of being a little girl, a little boy in the world. And you can fully see it. Oh, I'm playing the game. This is a game. They want me to be this person. Oh, that's interesting. I'll be that. And then you fall asleep to that person and think it's you. That role. That seems right to me to say that. That's what I did.
Speaking about naughty girl, can you say that now, and because you said this word also, freedom, that now that you're self-realized, and probably we all used, well, I did, we used to have this idea of self-realized people, enlightened people as saints, being very good, not experiencing negative emotions. And what I personally discovered is you can experience any emotion. You're free to experience anything. It's not about being good and virtuous and stuff. And actually you have this choice, and probably if you, as long as you stay aware, you can go into any sort of experience, and having this experience can be even more intense than it used to be for you, because there is no resistance anymore to any manifestation, be it positive or negative, which is absolutely relative. I mean, these terms are pretty relative to me. So have you experienced anything like that? I mean, negative emotions, lived through, enjoyed?
Trying to think. I don't think I've had too many challenges. I have been pretty blissful for the entire time, I have to admit. I've had a couple of occasions where something has risen out of me and I've been quite, maybe the right word, strong and overpowering. Not overpowering, but in my power, far more than I would have been. So I've really stood my ground and said, no, that's not right. You can't do that. I think it's happened a couple of times, and I've sort of thought, where did that come from?
That's it, I know.
It rises up, and you think, where did that come from? But it's gone, it's blown through. It's not like I was rude to somebody, it's just I stood in my power. Whereas before I may have thought, well, that wasn't very nice of them. Oh, and then walked away. I think you speak your mind, but not from a separate person, Judge.
No.
It's it comes very differently. It's from truth. You speak your truth.
It's natural, exactly.
So instead of thinking, oh, I better not upset somebody, you don't do it from the past programs of I'm going to get you back, or you can't talk to me like that. Who do they think? It doesn't come from that. It just comes from the truth, rises up, says what it needs to say, and then falls away. I haven't felt like I've been rude to anybody, or it hasn't come out in a way where I've regretted it. I've just thought, whoa, what was that? And I actually remember David saying he said, oh, or he might have said it off camera. He said, oh, things are going to change for you. And I sort of got the feeling that he meant this, that because I'm all for, my past personality would have to keep everything nice. Don't say, if I'm pissed off, maybe don't say anything. Just keep the peace.
Right.
But then, of course, you chew over it. It's still in your body and you're pissed off. And maybe you do then act from that to the person, but it's more of an underlying thing. Whereas it blows out, you say what you need to say, and then you're as sweet as pie 2 seconds later. So a bit like a child, how kids really upset with their friend. How dare you? You can't take that off me. And then they say, do you want to come play? It blows through, and I think that's probably what happens. The emotions blow through, but the truth is said rather than covered up and covered over. So yeah, well, that's my experience anyway.
Well, that's amazing, because I was a little bit worried. Maybe, well, I wasn't. Just kidding. But it did happen to me on a couple of occasions, and it's pretty natural. You don't feel you're angry, because I used to be a people pleaser. I was afraid of, making someone offended or hurt their feelings, and I would prefer, to sacrifice my dignity and my truth, just not to make them, offended or worried or whatever.
Or to create a scene, yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. And I think that this is the pattern that is just, falling down and falling apart now for me. And I remember going to a supermarket, and there were a couple of gypsy women, and one of them just came close and said, "Hey, beauty, can you buy me something?" And I just, my mouth, because I would say nothing, I would run.
Look away.
Exactly. But I would just calmly turn my face to her, saying, "Why don't you buy me something?" And then I entered the supermarket and said, "What was it?" And
what did I say?
Yeah. She asked the other one, "What did you say?" And I was in the supermarket like, how am I going to go out now? They're going to kill me. How dare you, Alice? And that was fun. And with some closer friends, I reacted to certain things that again, it came from the place of my truth now. And it didn't feel again as anger as anything. It's the truth, and it's my freedom to express it. And I don't want things that I don't want my life to adapt now to someone's patterns.
Well, there's nobody there. There is no you there to seek approval or to, and it's, not worried what somebody's going to think of you, because there's nobody there. There's the feeling, there's a feeling of there's nobody here. It's like my YouTube channel. I would have thought, and obviously I still have the inkling I did at the beginning, like, well, what will people think of me? I don't know what I'm saying. And that's like, well, actually, there's nobody here that cares. There is nobody here. So who's going to care? Because, you thought you might get some negative comments and you don't know what you're talking about, what a load of rubbish. And I thought, when I thought about it, I thought, well, because that would have been my default. I always want to, I don't want to put myself in the line of standing out for fear of being criticized. That was a big thing for me. And now I just don't care, because I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter what people think of me, because there's nobody really here to care.
Well, you created all this stuff. You created this YouTube channel yourself, speaking, and people watching and thinking bad stuff about you, probably. And it's like all one thing, just playing. Why?
Yeah, exactly. It's all. Yeah, you're right. It's all just a play, and it's only if if the personality picks that up and makes that into a story about. So what's happening? Say somebody does write something awful on there, just really awful. There's just the recognition of the awareness that somebody wrote something. That's it. That is all it is. Somebody wrote something. It only becomes something when the mind then says they shouldn't have done that. I don't feel good. It makes a story about what was written. So the bare facts are just somebody wrote. That's it. It's nothing. There's absolutely no emotion in it, no anything. It's only good or bad or upsetting or offending, or when the mind makes a story about it. So it's completely neutral. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. That's sort of what life's like. It doesn't matter. Things you just don't. Your mind there's just awareness of. I mean, I use that this week. I've been using that. There's some little tools that are quite handy. But so say you met somebody and something's gone on in the past. So there's that judgment of oh, I've got the dizziness again. There's that judgment of what you think about them. It's very important what you think about them, not the truth about them. It's what you think about them from past stuff. So then when you meet them again, you seem to see them through this lens of what happened before. But actually, if it's just seen as it's just this, it's just what's happening, without, for the mind not to pick up anything other than hi. It's like you don't paint anything over the top of what's happening. Two people are meeting. They're having a nice conversation and then they leave. That's it. It's just we tend to colour in what's happening from past stuff, and it, so I forgot the practice I've been using now. I was just telling you about. It's really been effective. It's just, I used to use it's just what's happening when I first realised, and prior to self-realisation. So when anything appeared to be negative, like you need 2 new tyres for your car, I'd just go, it's just what's happening. And so the story would fall about, oh my God, how much is that going to cost? And oh gosh, I need 2 on the other car. It goes into a thought train. Whereas if you just say, it's just what's happening, it just goes completely neutral, because the mind seems to drop it. It's just what's happening. It's not good or bad, it's just what's happening. So yeah, so I was using a practice this week. I've completely forgotten it. About just being, I can't even remember what it was, present. It has a similar effect, where it just cuts the mind and it just drops on anything new. It just is. There is awareness of, that's what I use. There is awareness of. So when something starts to happen and you see that there's a story wants to be formed, I just say in my head, there is awareness of. And then this story that wants to build goes,
okay,
because there's just awareness of. So once there's awareness of, it's got nowhere to go. There's no, I'm not blinded by it. It can't form. I'm not blinded. I'm like, there is awareness of. So as soon as it starts to bubble.
Right.
So a trigger, a tiny trigger.
Oh, right.
A story that your mind wants to make up about the situation. There is awareness of. And I just use that. It's literally just been this week. And it's like, it's like bliss, because nothing can form in that there is awareness of. It's like it just cancels everything out, and there is just awareness of what is happening without the story. So it's one of those, cuts the mind.
You just answered the question. I wanted to ask you about triggers, if you are still triggered and what you do about it. So
the triggers, the pattern for triggers, as far as I realize, is a little bit how we said before. Prior to realization, the triggers, and we react and we have emotions about it, and then that creates a thought, and some are bigger than others, so we can put them down, pick them back up again, and go through the scenario again, even though we've not with that person who was rude to us, or whatever happened, we thought they didn't like us, or whatever the thoughts are about it. We put them down, then we pick it back up again, then we put it down, we pick it back up. Like, still, I still have that feeling I'm chewing on this story over and over again. So that would have been the pattern before self-realization. Then with self-realization, there's more awareness. So the stories play up, but they almost just slide off. They don't stick. So you don't chew on them 3 days later. They're seen and they slide off. And you think, oh, not that old one. Oh, you again. And they just keep trying. Hello, what about this one? So I felt like they weren't sticky anymore. They were there, they were seen, but they weren't sticky. And now there is literally, I mean, I can't even, they're so small and so insignificant, but I still like to see them. I still like to do something with them. It's just because you just get lighter and lighter, and that identity gets more and more seen and just falls away. More and more space, more and more freedom.
More freedom.
So triggers are few and far between, nothing strong that I can even think of. But if I feel myself judging somebody, I'm just like, there's just awareness, and it falls away. You're driving, and I don't know, somebody could be doing something, and there's just awareness. That's it. Of whatever's happening in the moment. And so there's no story. In awareness, there's no story to be formed. It just disintegrates. So that's today. Who knows? I mean, something big could come up, I don't know, but there just seems to be enough space to be able to witness things as they do.
Well, I find it quite useful for us also to see the mechanism of fabrication of the story, because probably this is how, in our conversation, for example, or maybe in our personal work or whatever, it might be useful for other people, this understanding of the whole thing. It's hilarious, when the example you offered some moments ago about meeting someone on the street and then talking to them but not being fully present. I just imagine that, two people talking and everybody's chewing on their story. They are not really talking, they're not present, and then continuing doing that when they just split their ways. This is really interesting how it happens, and that's so funny to me, really.
Yeah, you almost see it in cartoon form now.
Right.
But what as you were talking then, I had the thought that actually they are, because everybody is awake. It's just they haven't realized. Everybody is the self. So actually you have got two beings who are fully awake, fully aware, fully in their, without their identities, they are fully aware, both of them. But they're both playing the role of being a person that's asleep. So then it's like puppets playing these roles of being asleep, of I've got the shy coat on, and this person's got the angry coat, and we're playing out these roles. But actually, they both already are fully awake, complete, and whole. They're just playing the game of being.
And it's valid.
Yeah,
it's a game.
And we all did it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We all, it's quite beautiful, really, when you think about it, that everybody is already awake and that they're just playing the game of being asleep.
Okay, no judgments, Walter.
No, because they could all be awake and just playing the game of being asleep for us to grow.
Right.
Amanda Tweed mentioned that to me. It was a really good, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Sharing that she said, what if everybody else is already awake and they're just compassionately playing the game of being asleep so I can wake up? And I just think that's so beautiful, that everybody else is already awake and they're helping you to wake up.
Right. Wow.
They're playing, wow. Wow. They're playing the roles to wake you up. So they're coming in to so you can see everything fully and wake up.
Wow.
Yeah. It's quite amazing to walk around and think like that. Like everybody in that supermarket is fully awake and they're just playing the game. That lady that you saw was playing the game of being asleep to help you grow.
This erases all the judgments.
Yeah.
Instantly, you know. It can be another trick, you know.
Another tool. Yeah. Because we are. I mean, it's true. Everybody is already awake. We just think they're not self-realized, but actually maybe they all are. Just helping us to wake up. Everybody you meet is fully awake.
Wow.
And they're just offering you the chance to wake up.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a really good one. It wasn't mine, it was Amanda Tweed, but I love that one. I couldn't help but share it. I share it with everybody. I just think it's a beautiful way of looking at everybody.
Oh, let's say hi to Amanda if she watches us.
Yeah.
And thank you for some words of wisdom that we can share now
definitely.
as well.
She's very wise. She sees everybody as completely whole and complete.
All right.
Nothing. Yeah.
Right. That's
and
amazing.
I think I think she sees Jesus in everybody. she sees everybody as Jesus. It's beautiful, really.
That's incredible. Well, back to your interview. Well, I have some notes here. With David, you were saying, I'm normal, I'm absolutely normal. And then he said that probably there are some gifts that would be unfolded in a way for you. So will be, how do I put that into words? Like, they will be revealed for you. So can you say something has happened?
Trying to think if there is anything since self-realization that's... I can't say anything that's particularly unfolded since self-realization. I think the biggest gift is literally what we just touched on, to see that everybody is you, not you, the separate person you. This is really important because it's so easy to get tricked, thinking the identity, the ego, everybody is me. It's that you, it's that turning in again and seeing that. So like when I see you, I see myself. It's not Collette, the identity seeing herself in you. It's the whole. So I see you as me. I can't look at you and not see me from this place of awareness.
Right.
So I think that's a real gift, because that judgment does drop away of anybody that you meet in the street, and that you know, I smile at people all the time. Well, mainly because I'm in bliss, but just to catch somebody's eye and you know, you both beam a smile. It's like it's a knowing that you are both one. That happens quite a lot. And I think I probably just put my head down and shuffled on with my day, really, before. I mean, you know, I think I was a nice person, but I didn't, you know, if somebody spoke to me, if somebody needed their shopping picking up. But now it seems it just happens effortlessly that you help people all the time. And it's not from a place of, oh, I'm a good person.
No.
It just happens. And you smile at people. And yeah, there seems to be, yeah, I mean, that must, you know, I see that as a gift to be able to really see people. And be open, be that level of completely open to whatever's being presented and seeing yourself and whatever's being presented. So you're not closed and judgmental of everything and like, this is my world, I'm going to get on with it. And, you know, you all get on with your world. It's just like you walk around like, oh I am everything. So there's no separation, I suppose. I haven't thought about it, but it's just, you just feel open. And I think that's, you know, that's a natural gift that comes from awakening, self-realization, that you are open to everybody. You're there.
I think it's a gift.
And something sort of moves through you. You know, you might give something to somebody. I put some shopping in the food bank thing today. I didn't used to do that. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm so good and I'm self-realized. I'm going to buy some food and put it in the thing. The idea comes, you do it,
right,
and you leave,
right.
And then this woman said, oh, can I have your trolley? And she was talking to me, and I could tell she wanted to talk more than just, oh, could I have your trolley? Thank you, and walk away. And she was spending time wrapping a bag. And I thought, oh, okay, this needs some time. This lady needs some time. So I said, oh, it's a good one, this one. The wheels don't wobble. And, you know, and I can't remember, something was exchanged. I don't know what it was, but I felt something was exchanged. But it wasn't little Miss Goody Two Shoes trying to be nice to somebody. It was moving through me. I don't know what it was. It wasn't me being nice. It was just what happened in the moment.
Probably it's your natural, you know, healing ability that was manifesting itself through that.
Yeah, whatever. I guess everybody operates differently, but it's as if the self is talking to the self. So she would have been me. She is me. So I was spending time with me.
Exactly. Healing some part of yourself.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't know really. It's just spontaneous, and you notice there's something quite magical happening. Yeah. But the mind is not involved because the mind didn't choose to catch that lady's eye. The mind didn't choose to notice she needed me to just stay that. I mean, it was literally 10 seconds to hear her while she wrapped her bag. She was looking at me and she was wrapping her bag and she was wanting, you know, 10 seconds of something, an exchange. And there was something in me that knew to stay and spend that time with her. And then it's gone and forgotten, you know. I don't even know why I'm talking about it now. But I guess those are the gifts, and those are the gifts that give just as much. I mean, I didn't really give anything, but I got back. That's what's interesting. You tend to get back. We have a Zoom call. We did a Zoom call on Sunday for a group of some people are self-realized and some people are just beginning, because we did a retreat, so we've got like this little group and we've added a few more people to it. And some are not quite. It was such a beautiful, I can't tell you how beautiful the group was. And I feel like, so there isn't really a teacher. Amanda and I hold the group, and we say that we're not teachers, because we're not, and we only speak from experience and where we are. I would
Right.
say Amanda probably is a natural teacher. I don't think I particularly am. I more hold the space and she does the teaching. But the class, so it was the same energy. So we're talking and they ask a question or somebody shares. It's more sharing than question and answer and teaching going on. But so they share something and I might have an experience but so this was going on and so at the beginning it almost seems like we set it up. We're the teachers. It's like you're playing a game and they're the students. It's not like that. But it seems to be, it starts out like that. Then as the call carries on, I felt at the end of it that they had given me so much, that I had learnt so much. I couldn't put it into words.
Wow.
That in offering this space, I was getting it back 1,000-fold, just for creating the space for people to share what was going on with them and what they'd learned and maybe what they'd used or just their experiences. It becomes a real, there's no this and this, it's just a flow. It's
Exactly.
Whatever's coming, it's a coming back and it's the oneness thing again, I suppose. I'm just seeing myself 10 times over. When we've got 10 people on the screen, you just see 10, you just see yourself over and over again. And it's like mirrors bouncing backwards and forwards. And it's just, sometimes it's quite mesmerizing because you just think that the self, not the individual self, but just the self, your true nature is bouncing backwards and forwards. And it sort of just becomes it's just oneness. Yeah, you just start experiencing oneness with people you've never met before.
So it has nothing to do with give and take or
my
conscious
goodness,
exchange. It's just a flow.
Yeah. And I feel like I gained 1,000 to whatever I gave. Not that I gave anything, do you know what I mean?
Wow.
It just feels really magical to hold that space and play the game of waking people up or helping them or just sharing. Yeah, it just becomes a love bomb. We used to have a little bit, didn't we, when we did our calls on when David used to join us as well. It's like we all sit there and bliss. When you've got that many self-realized people together, we end up just being in silence and bliss.
Right. Wow. So these are real gifts, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
For yourself to start with.
Yeah.
Because they just bliss you out, definitely. I do experience connection to people through my chest area. Well, I think where definitely it should be. It's supposed to be felt, I think, and on my back as well. I remember that the heart chakra also has its reflection on the back, so I experience it a lot on my back. And as far as bliss is concerned, this part is also pretty affected by those bliss attacks. And what's interesting is that sometimes I can kind of feel people's, I don't know if they are not thoughts, they are feelings towards something. I remember on the train, people will say she's crazy. And there was a guy just next to me, and I looked at his sweater, and there was an ornament, and I suddenly, like, without thinking about anything, I suddenly had it in my head. I love this sweater. I love it so much. I remember when I was choosing it. It's so cozy, and I understood that I was the guy. I literally was. It's not that I was overhearing something. I was him. And another thing happened to me. Well, actually, you have a cat, and so probably you also know this experience. I remember seeing a bird flying, and also it happened just by accident. I don't know. Suddenly, I knew I was the bird flying, and I could sense this excitement of the flight, maybe, but not even excitement, but just the speed and the air. And then at the same time, I could sense that person down there watching me. And I was watching the person, and the person was watching me, and that was absolutely crazy. So,
it's that oneness, isn't it? Again,
it's oneness, right?
because it's going backwards and forwards. There is no separation.
And again, there is
Yeah,
this flow you mentioned.
Yeah, as if you're just in one big bubble, or
exactly.
Yeah, it just is, it keeps going. It's a continuous flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's really amazing.